Good afternoon, fellow citizens of Alberta Territory. My name is Sarah Black, and it is with a profound sense of duty and purpose that I address you today as Chief Minister of the Alberta Territorial Red Democratic Government. We stand at a pivotal moment in our territory's democratic journey, a moment defined by change, resilience, and an unwavering commitment to the people we serve. Today, I formally announce a cabinet shuffle within our government, effective immediately. This decision follows the voluntary resignations of two dedicated public servants, the Honourable Heather White, former Alberta Territorial Minister of National Affairs, and the Honourable Jessica Jones, former Alberta Territorial Minister of Housing. I extend my deepest gratitude to both individuals for their years of diligent service, their integrity in office, and their steadfast advocacy for the communities they represented. Their contributions have laid foundational work in strengthening our nation-to-nation relationships and advancing equitable housing initiatives across our territory. As we move forward, it is with confidence and optimism that I appoint the Honourable Brian Weston as the new Alberta Territorial Minister of National Affairs. Minister Weston brings over 15 years of experience in intergovernmental relations, Indigenous policy, and diplomatic engagement. His deep understanding of Canada's complex federal territorial dynamics, coupled with his proven track record in negotiation and consensus building, makes him exceptionally suited to steward our territory's voice in national conversations. Minister Weston will prioritize strengthening alliances with First Nations, Métis, and Inuit governments, ensuring that Alberta Territory leads by example in reconciliation and co-governance. Simultaneously, I am appointing a new leader to guide our housing portfolio. The Honourable Amelia Carlson will assume the role of Alberta Territorial Minister of Housing on an interim basis until the upcoming by-election. Her expertise in urban planning, social equity, and public infrastructure will be critical as we accelerate the delivery of 10,000 new affordable housing units by 2029, a cornerstone of our mandate. I must clarify a matter of growing public concern: there will be no early election in the fall of 2026. Recent claims circulated by the Alberta Old Contemporary Party, the official opposition under the leadership of Ms. Alison Parker, suggesting otherwise are categorically false. These are deliberate attempts to destabilize public confidence and disrupt governance. Let me be unequivocal: our government remains firmly committed to serving its full 4-year mandate. The next general election will be held on the fixed date of Monday, May 5, 2027, as established by the Alberta Territorial Fixed Election Date Act of 2023. I reject the recent polling figures that suggest our government is faltering. These numbers, alleging a 22% support rate for the Red Democratic Party compared to 50% for the opposition, are not only misleading but fundamentally unrepresentative of public sentiment. Polls are snapshots, not mandates. They do not capture the depth of community engagement, the impact of policy delivery, or the trust built through tangible action. What they fail to reflect is the over 30,000 new jobs created under our economic revitalization program, the 150 new childcare spaces opened in rural communities last quarter, or the $200 million invested in renewable energy infrastructure. I have full confidence that on Election Day, May 5, 2027, Albertans will recognize the progress we've made. We entered office with a promise to govern with transparency, inclusivity, and courage. We are fulfilling that promise every day. Now to our legislative priorities. The Alberta Territorial Legislative Assembly's winter session commences tomorrow, Wednesday, January 14, 2026. This marks the beginning of an ambitious session focused on environmental stewardship, democratic renewal, and social justice. Our first bill, which will be introduced on January 21, 2026, in just over 1 week, is the Alberta Territorial Pipeline Authorization and First Nations Consent Act. To uphold the rights of First Nations, whose sovereignty and land rights predate colonial borders. Additional legislation will follow throughout the session, including the Affordable Housing and Rent Stabilization Act, the Territorial Climate Resilience and Adaptation Framework, and the Public Transit Modernization Initiative. Each of these bills reflects our commitment to building a just, green, and equitable Alberta territory. In tandem with these efforts, we are announcing a by-election for two critical ridings, Red Deer South and Lethbridge Centre. These elections will be held on Monday, April 27, 2026, to formally elect new representatives following the resignations of Heather White and Jessica Jones. Until that date, the Honorable Brian Weston and the Honorable Amelia Carlson will serve in their respective ministerial capacities on a temporary basis, ensuring continuity of governance and policy implementation. To the residents of Red Deer South and Lethbridge Centre, your voices matter. Your participation in this by-election is not only a right but a responsibility. We encourage all eligible voters to register, engage with candidates, and shape the future of their communities. We face challenges, economic uncertainty, climate emergencies, political division, but we face them together. And together, we will emerge stronger. Thank you for your attention. May we continue to govern with integrity, serve with empathy, and lead with vision. Have a reflective and purposeful day, Albertans. Good afternoon, citizens of Alberta and members of the press. My name is Sarah Black, your Alberta Territorial Chief Minister and leader of the Alberta Red Democratic Government. It is with a sense of urgency and conviction that I stand before you today to announce a pivotal piece of legislation that will define the trajectory of our territory and its relationship with the broader Canadian mosaic. Today marks the formal introduction of Bill C-87, the removal of pipeline project in Alberta. This bill, scheduled for a vote in the Alberta Territorial Legislative Assembly on Monday, January 19, 2026, represents a bold assertion of democratic accountability and environmental stewardship. Our government believes that Alberta's future must not be shackled to the carbon-intensive infrastructure of the past, nor dictated by decisions made without the inclusion of Indigenous communities or the consent of Albertans at the territorial level. A legislative break from provincial and federal overreach. Bill C-87 seeks to halt all new pipeline construction in Alberta and revoke existing permits issued under the authority of the Alberta provincial government and the federal Liberal government. This is not merely a policy shift, it is a rejection of a governance model that prioritizes short-term economic expediency over intergenerational sustainability. Prime Minister Mark Carney and Alberta Premier Daniel Smith's recent agreement to fast-track pipeline projects has been a stark breach of democratic norms. By advancing these projects without the endorsement of the Alberta Territorial Government or meaningful consultation with Indigenous communities, they have undermined the principles of federalism and Indigenous sovereignty. Our government cannot, and will not, accept decisions that strip Albertans of their right to shape their own territory's destiny. A call for unity, building bridges with opposition parties. To ensure the success of Bill C-87, we are appealing directly to the two opposition parties in the Legislative Assembly, the Alberta Old Contemporary Party, led by the Honourable Alison Parker, and the Alberta Progressive Party, led by the Honourable Tyler Smith, to stand with us in this historic effort. While past legislative sessions have revealed ideological divides, our government remains steadfast in its belief that a sustainable Alberta is a shared vision. In 2025, we witnessed the regrettable rejection of Bill C-56, which sought to redesign the Alberta flag to symbolize renewable energy and solar power. The Alberta Old Contemporary Party and Alberta Progressive Party voted against that measure, a decision we now urge them to reconsider in March 2026. The flag is not merely a symbol, it is a reflection of who we are, who we aspire to be, and what we value. A flag representative of solar energy and environmental progress would send a powerful message of unity and forward-looking ambition. The path forward: environmental justice and democratic integrity. The removal of pipeline projects is not an end in itself, but a necessary first step toward a broader transformation. Alberta must transition from an economy defined by extraction to one rooted in innovation, green jobs, and clean energy. This shift is not only environmentally imperative but economically viable. Our territory is rich in solar potential, wind resources, and hydroelectric capacity, and it is time we leverage these assets to build a resilient, 21st-century economy. Indigenous consultation remains central to this vision. For too long, the voices of First Nations, Métis, and Inuit communities have been sidelined in decisions affecting their lands and futures. Our government is committed to rectifying this. While we reject unilateral pipeline projects, we will work collaboratively with Indigenous partners to develop renewable energy initiatives that honor treaty rights and foster economic equity. Resistance and resilience, a blueprint for legislative action. We anticipate that the federal and provincial governments will attempt to circumvent Bill C-87 through legal or political maneuvering. However, the Alberta Territorial Government is prepared to assert its jurisdiction decisively. Under the provisions of our constitutional framework, we reserve the right to override conflicting provincial and federal mandates when they contravene the public interest or territorial sovereignty. This is not a power we wield lightly, but one we will use to protect the rights of Albertans and the health of our ecosystems. In the coming days and weeks, we will introduce a series of complementary bills to solidify this transition. A comprehensive renewable energy investment fund to support solar and wind infrastructure. A Transparency Act to mandate public disclosure of all energy-related permits and contracts. A Climate Equity Council to ensure Indigenous and community voices guide environmental policy. A Green Jobs Strategic Plan to retrain workers for careers in the clean energy sector. These measures will not only address the urgent climate crisis, but also create a more inclusive and prosperous Alberta for future generations. Final appeal, a legacy of courage and compassion. To the members of the old contemporary and progressive parties, we implore you to rise above partisan divisions and recognize that the stakes of Bill C-87 extend beyond today's headlines. Will you look back and say you stood with the status quo, or will you be the architects of a cleaner, fairer Alberta? To the people of our territory, this is your government in action. When we vote on Monday, January 19th, we are not just debating a bill, we are affirming a new chapter for Alberta. One where democracy is sacred, the environment is sacred, and the rights of all people are sacred. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your attention. That is all the news I have for you today. Good afternoon, everyone. Please be seated. My name is Sarah Black, and I am the Chief Minister of the Alberta Territorial Government. I have called you here today at this hour because the people of our territory, and indeed all Albertans, deserve to hear directly from their government on a matter of profound and grave importance. It is with a deep sense of disappointment, tempered by a resolute determination, that I stand before you. Yesterday, Friday, January 16, 2026, Prime Minister Mark Carney concluded his visit to Beijing. We now have confirmation that the culmination of those meetings was a federal Liberal government decision to proceed with a massive procurement of Chinese-made electric vehicles for the Canadian market. This is not merely a policy disagreement, this is a fundamental betrayal of the Canadian worker, a calculated deconstruction of our auto sector, and an abdication of our national duty to build our own future. Let us be clear about what this means. This decision, made thousands of kilometers away in a boardroom in Beijing, will directly result in the loss of thousands of good-paying, family-supporting jobs. Jobs in St. Catharines, in Alliston, and right here in Alberta. This is the Prime Minister's vision, a Canada that does not make things, a Canada that outsources its innovation, its manufacturing, and its economic sovereignty to the lowest international bidder. The federal Liberal government, under Prime Minister Carney, seems to believe that the path to a green future is paved not with Canadian steel and Canadian ingenuity, but with imported components and foreign assembly lines. We in the Alberta Territorial Government fundamentally and vehemently disagree. However, our disappointment does not end with the federal government. It is with an even greater sense of disillusionment that I must turn my attention to our own provincial government here in Edmonton. It has come to my attention that Premier Donnell Smith and her United Conservative provincial government have chosen to endorse this misguided federal initiative. It is one thing for a Liberal government in Ottawa to be disconnected from the realities and the potential of our province. We have, unfortunately, come to expect such short-sightedness. But it is another matter entirely for our own provincial government, a government that purports to stand for Alberta jobs, Alberta industry, and Alberta prosperity, to aid and abet this betrayal. So let me state this for the record, for the people of our territory and for Premier Smith. Our Alberta Territorial Government will not let this happen. We will not stand by while the federal government opens the floodgates to foreign state-subsidized goods, and we will absolutely not tolerate a provincial government that willingly facilitates this economic surrender. Therefore, we are calling on Premier Donnell Smith and her United Conservative government to immediately reverse their position on this matter. We will fight, in every forum available to us, any attempt by the provincial government to undermine our jurisdiction or our initiatives in developing a sovereign EV manufacturing sector. Let me be unequivocally clear, the jurisdiction of the Alberta Territorial Government over strategic industrial development and green energy projects within our lands is sacrosanct. It was devolved to us precisely for moments like this, so that a forward-looking vision could not be held hostage by provincial inaction or federal misadventure. If the provincial government decides to intervene, to obstruct, or to interfere in our rightful and lawful jurisdiction, there will be consequences. We will utilize every legal, political, and constitutional tool at our disposal to defend our mandate and our ability to deliver on the promises we made to our people. This is not a threat, it is a statement of fact and a promise to our constituents. Finally, to Prime Minister Carney, I say this: our territorial government will bring immense pressure to bear upon your administration. We will work with our partners in Ontario and with like-minded leaders across this country to demand you reverse this disastrous policy. We will make the case to all Canadians that relying on any single country, particularly one with China's human rights record and geopolitical ambitions, to build the foundational vehicles of our future is a strategic folly we will regret for generations. For a party that claims to be the champion of free enterprise, to stand idly by, and indeed, support, a policy that will cripple a burgeoning domestic industry and ship those very jobs and opportunities overseas is not just a contradiction, it is a breach of trust with every Albertan who believed their government would fight for them. I want the people of Alberta to understand what is at stake here. This is not merely about cars. This is about our economic future. This is about our ability to control our own destiny. And that is why, last November, our Alberta Red Democratic Territorial Government took decisive action. We did not wait for Ottawa. We did not wait for a provincial government mired in ideological inconsistency. We secured an agreement, a historic partnership, with the Government of Ontario under Premier Doug Ford. That agreement laid out a clear and ambitious plan, a partnership to leverage Ontario's world-class auto manufacturing expertise, with Alberta's unparalleled industrial capacity, our skilled workforce, and our commitment to developing green energy to power that future. We stood on a stage and promised the creation of 30,000 new, high-tech electric vehicle jobs right here in Alberta, with a projected rollout beginning this April. These were not hollow words. They were the cornerstone of a vision for an Alberta that was a leader, not a follower, in the global economy. A vision where the batteries were powered by Alberta's renewables, the frames forged from Alberta's steel, and the vehicles assembled by the hands of Albertan workers. A vision where everything was and should be Alberta-made and Canadian-made. Today, on January 17, 2026, that vision is under direct assault, not just from a foreign trade deal, but from a profound lack of leadership within our own borders. Everything should be Alberta-made. Everything should be Canadian-made. We should have the confidence and the national pride to build our own country. Our government does, and we will not rest until we do. That is the statement I have for you today. Thank you.